All right, welcome guys. Welcome guys. This is we're just going to do a quick recap of the analysis that I did in our episode one because this is our episode two. So right here you can see in the BTC that is a key level. On BTC that is our key level and liquidity marked, break of structure marked. But unfortunately, pricing was planned. Then when I zoom in a little, you realize that price was actually reacting on a 4 hours key level and it was just respecting its overall bias. And instead I was more focused on the 30-minute time frame, and these are some of the effects of when you refuse to take into consideration the higher time frame bias. Because if you look cleanly, this is a break of structure, all right. Then price was now reacting to the low that actually created that break of structure to the upside. Now, then price reacted to it swiftly, then push massively to the upside in with with a lot of support from CPI too. So price took out the 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 major high that was above it, giving us a new massive break of structure. All right, and also clear to say that is why, excuse me, that's why you see that price came. And because on the lower time frame, consider that it's a 30-minute time frame. On the lower time frame, price was just busy doing his thing, just tapping into that demand level right there, and I was actually reacting off it. I didn't pay any close attention. That's why you must. It is very important and it is very necessary that you pay attention to the higher time frame bias. Higher time frame bias. For New Zealand USD, I think we had already seen this before. We had already seen this. Yeah, we had already seen this particular one in the episode one. So this is another trade that I had so much confidence in that it was going to play out. But news had this because I strongly believe that without the news, without the influence of the news, the trade should have really played out very, very well. But the news had other plans. But I also think this is another mistake that I made because you can see I'm now marked. I marked the 4 hours time frame demand area. That is where I was supposed to actually place my entry and my stop below it. But since I was more focused on the 30-minute time frame, I had to pay for I had to face the consequences of my mistake, of my errors. So it's very important that you put into consideration the higher time frame key levels because it is super important. It is very, very important because without that you are going to have a lot of losing trades, so many losing trades. I kid you not. Because you can clearly see that after a break of structure, we had another break of structure to the upside. So I marked my key level and liquidity because like they always say, if you cannot spot the liquidity on the market, then you are the liquidity. That was a that is actually a clear change of character. And price, after a change of character, obviously price tapped into a, a supply level on the upside, then push downward. So I was just expecting, because the break of structure was just internal break of structures, so I was just expecting price to just give me a swift 1:2, yeah, because that trade I think is about 1:2, maximum 1:2.5. So I was just expecting price would just do its thing, then push back down. Now this is the USD card. USD card, I had marked my break of structures, the first and the second. Then I was just expecting price to just retrace into the supply level so that I can look for entries, then push to the downside. But it just kept selling and selling and selling and selling and did not get back to the supply level. But I think in subsequent time or in subsequent days, it's definitely going to get there. Yes, it's definitely going to get there. Another trade, another mistake that I made was this EU, because I remember in episode 1 I made mention of the fact that EU is just misbehaving, and currently I don't really know the exact direction that is going to. But I think I had my confirmations after that break of structure, so I thought price was just going down and down and down and down. But news had other plans, and before I knew it, that particular supply level was violated massively. Because I think in another sense too there was an error, because it is clearly shows that price is price is in the downtrend. You get, that is where the confusion is. Price is clearly in the downtrend because you cannot see a clear break, a change of character on the 4 hours time frame, which means that price is still in the downtrend. So how did all the buys and all the buys occur? I don't know. So, but I guess I was liquidity, so he just had to do his thing and take me out. Yeah, just had to do his thing and take me out. So that is that for EU. That is that for EU. And like I said earlier, after price tap into this demand area, because it took out liquidity, tap into the zone, then push upward, and also with the help of news, it just took out. And I think I am not the only one that was actually expecting a sell on that particular zone. I think there were many other traders, but guess what? Your liquidity, your liquidity. You need to lose for another person to take a win. That is how the market is for you. For it is so. The most important thing is always to ensure that you take proper analysis in order for you to be on the safe side of the market. If not, you are constantly going to lose money, because after break of structures, obviously the next one was I was normally expecting a break of structures to the downside, but it didn't actually go as planned. And same scenario on GU, but GU can see that GU had uh, internal break of structures, all right, internal break of structures. And instead of me to actually I was supposed to mark my 4 hours key level. I think that probably should have helped me to know that the market was actually going to reverse, because we're clearly on GU, we are clearly on an uptrend. And it will shock you to know that that zone that I marked was 2 hours, not even 4 hours. So I don't know what I was actually marking, because if you want to mark clean areas of liquidity, it should be highs and lows of 4 hours candles, 1 day candles, 1 week candles, one month candle. Anything below that, you are just pushing yourself at VIX. Yes. So that is that for gold. In our previous episode, I just marked the zone. I didn't really pay attention to gold because gold was just doing its thing, and gold is very very funny. You cannot really say you have a full mastery on gold, because at the very point that you think you know too much about gold is going to disappoint you. So another person was Ethereum. Ethereum, I don't know what happened here, because honestly speaking, this is a clear break of structure. The very first one is a break. You can see two break of structures, then a change of character to the downside. Obviously, what are you supposed to do? You mark the supply level that created the change in character, then wait for price to react to it and look for your confirmation, then take a trade to the downside. News had other plans. Donald Trump had other plans. Very important. It's very important that you acknowledge all those facts. It's very, very important. He had other plans, very sweet plans. So basically, that is that for Ethereum. Nothing much. Market just did its thing. I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened, because I think I now see what happened. I now see what happened. I now see what happened. Price still did the same thing, reacting off a strong demand area, then to the upside. If you can't see the liquidity, you are the liquidity, my brother or my sister. That's something we all need to know. If you can't spot the liquidity, then you are the liquidity. It's very important to note. Super important to note. If you can't spot it, then you are. So I think on this episode journey to profitability. Actually, we are in the minus, seriously in the minus. But regardless, we have another. We have today, Wednesday. We have tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. So hopefully, we get better opportunities, and we see how the week ends. Probably I'll drop another video on Saturday on the entire recap of everything of all our trades and the ones that mm, made it to
So
TP. And
because
if
currently
there's
now we
something, if
are,
there's something you want to, let's say I had a poor firm that was trading, my account should have been bleeding, seriously bleeding.